For me, the big question would be the price and what I'm seeing. The environment. I need a green place. I need somewhere which is quiet, which is also affordable. So those are the things. Cautionbrook, I live somewhere in Cautionbrook. I don't know if people know it. It's like 20 minutes to drive from Dusseldorf. I love it here because it's not far from Dusseldorf. And the prices are increasing slowly, but still affordable. Even the life standards, I find it here, it's okay because of the people who are living around here. That's what I would say. I don't, Dusseldorf, Cottongrove, maybe also Essen. It's not so far, but Essen is also very special. Huh? Essen is not everyone in Essen. Essen Bodenside or something like that.
Okay, understood. Thank you again as well. Any other person who would select any other city, and again as an investment and not for your own use? Yeah. Anybody would like to say something? Okay, Teresa, go ahead.
I would think of which is this town they said is too expensive. München, is it München?
Yeah.
Yeah, they say it is too expensive. Getting a house is difficult.
Yeah.
Of course, I've had also buying a house there is very expensive and everything. That means it's a hot kick place. If you want to do something with investment, if you want to rent a house out, then definitely that is the place that you will go, because you are thinking of something good coming in. That is as an investment. I live in Essen. And I would say that I wouldn't mind if it's something that I can also, if not München, I can also do it in Dusseldorf, which is also a nice town. It's more international. International community. It's next to the airport. You never know. You can even do something like an what do you call it? God, what is my name?
Airbnb.
God, what is my name? Something that you rent for a few days. People come a few days, then they go, they pay you your money, they go, more people come, they go. Yeah, and I find that one also quite profitable.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you very much. Now, let me just get into one point. You said the high prices. Now, actually, I would argue the place where you have high prices, I wouldn't rather want to invest into any area where you have like really high prices, unless I'm receiving a good return out of those high prices, right? So, of course, my aim is always to look into getting the best property for the lowest prices possible, right? So, Munich is a place where one can go ahead and invest in, yes, but then you also have to consider the rental market. Can you receive a good rent out of wherever you're investing in Munich, considering the price, of course. Okay, this is very nice. Now we got some points in the Düsseldorf, Duisburg, Bonn, Munich. The personal bias, now this is also something that plays a major role where I would say one should really, let's say, pay attention. Because you live within an area doesn't necessarily mean that this area has the best investment opportunity, right? Now, I, as a financial advisor, I would always say, I only look at the numbers. I do not consider any personal views. Oh, I like this area, I don't like that area. That really doesn't matter so much, actually, but I find out that clients are always going into the direction, yes, I would like to buy where I live because I like it there and so on and so forth. But that should not actually play a major role in your thought process. Basically the numbers and the return, etc. Okay, but we got some good points. Again, if you're taking a look into location, you also think about districts. I do not know if everybody knows Düsseldorf. Now, for those who do know Düsseldorf, maybe others than Ross or Emily, Rosalind or Emily, do you know any specific district within Düsseldorf that you would say, okay, this is a district I would like to invest in, and why? Is there anybody?
Oh, I can start, yeah.
Okay.
I think for me, it would be okay, you're talking about Düsseldorf, district in Düsseldorf?
Yes.
I would definitely maybe be in Geresheim. That's a Stadtteil there.
Yeah.
Or Geresheim or Düsseltal.
Rüsselsheim.
Düsseltal. There is Geresheim and then Düsseltal. They're just nebenan.
Yeah.
And I like them because of the environs. I mean, they're peaceful, quiet. The houses are also pretty good.
Okay.
I don't mind myself living there, but I would also not mind having a property to rent there. It's really nice. Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. Again, there we see the personal bias, what you like and you prefer, which is okay, good and interesting. I would, for example, invite you to visit any pages that you can find where you can get an idea on the Mietspiegel. Yeah, within specific areas, right? And if you get the Mietspiegel in Düsseldorf, there's, you have, for example, a page called Wohnungsbörse, Wohnungsbörse.de, and within Düsseldorf, it tells you which area in Düsseldorf you can get a potentially high rent, and you can receive, of course, those data are based on the past, but it also helps you get a perspective on where to best invest. And again, it's always about the potential rent you can receive out of an investment. Yeah, it is nice if you like the area. That's also a good point. Why? Because people tend to go to areas that are quiet or nice and good to live in. And maybe because of those factors, you can get it, which is also possible, right? But again, I'll just invite you to look into pages such as Mietspiegel.de, Wohnungsbörse.de, and all such pages where you can get a good idea of where to best or where you can get the highest rental return. Okay. Good. Now, it was Teresa who already mentioned point number 3, type of use, Airbnb, for example. What other types of use do you know? Now, just in regards to residential, there are not many, but maybe somebody can name the second one. Anybody willing?
Okay, I know people who rent small apartments to students. Huh?
Yeah.
Because I think somewhere in the near from Düsseldorf, there's a block where people have this opportunity to buy one-room apartments or one-bedroom apartment, and they think just for the students, because students, it's a big market. People come to the universities and they don't have any rooms anymore. And since the prices are going up, you see that people are willing to pay for this price also. Students also. Wonderful. It's sad, it's sad for the students, but it's a price. It's the market. It's telling people, okay, get yourself such things, such properties, and it's bringing you money.
Okay, wonderful. No, that's a good one. Students. Any other idea besides students?
I can say you can as well also rent it for businesses like bakery or whatever business someone wants to have there. Yeah. I think that's also another way of wirtschaften your place or your home, if it is in a place whereby it is allowed to have businesses there.
Yeah, okay, that's a good point. But again, it is gewerbliche Nutzung, which means you're using it as a business, it's not residential, right? But again, there are many ways of usage in which you can invest in. You can go into logistics, you can go into small businesses, you can go into larger businesses, you can even go into hotellerie. if you like to like buying little apartments, hotel apartments, I would say. So those are all possibilities. But in regards to residential, yes, Airbnb is one. Then you got studentische Wohnung, yeah. Then of course you've got long-term residency, yeah. So you simply just renting out in the normal market, and you of course short-term residency, which is possible. Now, with each and every one, you have pros and cons. Okay, for example, Airbnb, who knows if you always get a new tenant immediately? Yeah, of course, the rent that you can receive is quite high, but the question of are you consistently having your apartments rented out? That's not always giving. With students, yes, you can also rent to students, but then you have price limitations. Sorry, it's a bit loud over here. I hope you can still hear me. Then you've also got price limitations when you're renting out to students. So, but again, those are topics one can always discuss about how you're renting out an apartment. Good. Now, this is very personal, I would say, investment volume, point number 4. Let's just say, what would consider or what would determine your investment volume? Does anybody have an idea? Let me just pick Paul. Paul, can you just tell me what will determine your investment idea? If you can speak, of course. Or unmute yourself.
So investment volume in terms of the capacity or in terms of the expectation?
Let's say the price of the apartments of the property you want to buy. What will determine the value of the property? What do you think could determine the value from your perspective, your personal perspective?
From my perspective, mostly is return on investment, how much money you put in and how long it takes to recoup back the money. So that then from that point you can start earning something.
Okay, thank you. Anything else that you could think of?
I think that's the main thing, because the longer you take to recoup the initial money that you put into something, then it delays the benefit of whatever you're looking for.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I would also argue, for example, the amount of capital you have, right? Eigenkapital.
Yeah, that's very important.
Yeah. So again, that would be the basic, because if I have like, let's say 10,000 on my account, right? Now, many banks would require that at least I cover the transaction costs, which is Grunderwerbsteuer, notary fees, land transfer tax, as well as estate agent fees, any estate agents involved, right? So if I only have 10,000 and this 10,000 can cover the transaction costs, which is roughly 10% of my investment, it basically tells me my potential investment can be roughly 100,000. Okay. Now, what else could determine my investment?
Your salary.
Thank you very much.
Your salary and the expenditures you're having, because here in Germany, they are very keen on what you are earning and what you're giving out and what is left at the end of the day.
Yeah. Now, what you can always say, roughly, you don't take me as exact, you can always say 108 times your net salary. Okay. So I would say 108 times your net salary would be the maximum amount a bank could be willing to offer you as a loan. Yeah. Now, how does this determine the purchase price? Basically, you get 108 times a loan, which means 100% loan. That amount times 10% would be the transaction cost that you best have to bring in as Eigenkapital. Right? So this is just indications for you to know, okay, how can what narrows down my potential investment? First of all, the Eigenkapital, the amount of capital you have, your salary also determines your investment. Also your expenditures, if you already have an additional loan, or you have any running costs, consumer loans, for example. So all those would narrow down or determine your investment amount. Yeah. Now, what about the age and the size of the property? what do you think in regards to the age and the size? Is there anybody who can just give me some ideas? How old should this property be? And what do you think is the best size of should this property have? Anthony, if you don't mind. I hope Anthony could hear me.
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, wonderful.
Please could you repeat the question?
Yeah, the question is basically your personal perspective. How old should this property be, and what size would you prefer?
On my side, it depends on what I want to invest on, and most of the time, if for resale, and depending with the local law that is there, sometimes and UNESCO regulations that are there, I cannot determine the age because sometimes you buy an expensive house and there's no return.
Yeah.
Depending with the local regulations, at the same time, the commission that you give with the
Yeah.
law and other stuff and transfer. At the same time, how much do you have and the location that the house is matters a lot.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, those are very good points. The one that I wrote down is laws and regulations. Now, laws and regulations do play a big impact on the age of a house, because as we hear right now, they have this Neubau Energie Gesetz, in which older properties need to have a certain standard. So if you would go ahead and buy some older property, then you might be forced by law to invest money into this apartment to lift up the standard. So laws and regulations do play a very important role in this regards. Now, the size of the apartment, depending on which size you're looking for, a bank could confirm or deny a loan. So, for example, banks do not like financing small properties. Yeah. If you have properties which are less than 30 square meters, some banks will deny you. If you have properties which are less than 20 square meters, some banks will deny it. Very few deny if the property is less than 50 square meters. So the size of the property determines somehow also the accessibility of you getting a loan. Yeah. Again, 30 square meters and low and smaller, they do provide a good rent. Yeah. Because the smaller the property, the higher the rent per square meter, actually. But banks do not like those small properties and rather wouldn't, or let's say very few banks could finance such properties. But that doesn't mean that a small property is a bad investment. No, you could even find a bank which is offering a very good condition to finance such property. But it's just like you don't have a vast range of banks willing to finance those properties. Okay. Then last but not least, performance. Eric already mentioned, yes, return on investment. What else would, well, let me just get into return on investment. Now, there are different types in determining the return of investment. In this case, I believe it's just the initial return of investment. Now, what's the initial return of investment? Now, anytime you open Immobilien Scout, right, and you see a property telling you it costs 100,000 euros and you receive an annual rent of 10,000, okay, per annum. So the initial rate of return is basically just your rent, the annual rent, yeah. Divided by the purchase price. Now, this gives you just initial rates of return, and it's just an indication if this investment can be a good investment or not. To me, what I would say the best, or let me just say it differently, experts say if you can get an initial rate of return of 5% or above, then this investment is most likely to be a very good investment. Now, if the initial rate of return is, let's say, around 1%, 2%, then it doesn't look like a very good investment. I would rather not go ahead and proceed such an investment. So again, very simple. If you open Immobilien Scout or any expose that you receive from a makler or anything that you see, simply just go ahead and divide the annual rent by the purchase price, and then you get times 100, of course. Then you get a percentage. If it's below 5%, then rather not. If it's above 5%, then you can pursue that investment or basically have a closer look into it. Okay. Was that clear for everybody? Yeah.
I do have a question.
Yes.
If I, assuming I'm buying a property for my own use at home, I think normally there in Deutschland or in German, people try to calculate that you paid it back within 30 years. 30 years is a long time, but I think that's the normal years people get in the bank to pay it back. Because when you start it with 30, you go up to 60, 63. When you're finishing, you're going to your pension or retiring. So it is the calculation most people have. What about when you are buying property for investment? Is there an age limit, or do I have to pay to the 10, 20 years? Is there regulations for such things?
But there's no such regulation which says, okay, because it's an investment property, you have to pay it off within a certain amount of years. Now, there are some banks who would say, okay, they would rather like if it's an investment property, and depending on etc. If you live in or out of Germany, then they would like you to pay off the loan within 20 years, right? So this is also possible, but there's no law which says, okay, you have to, because it's an investment property, you have to pay back this property within a certain period of time. But again, the calculation that banks do is quite the same, regardless if it's an investment or for your own use. They will simply go ahead and determine your income, subtract all your costs, and determine the monthly installment towards the bank. If your household calculation is positive, wonderful, you can go ahead. If it's negative, then obviously the loan won't be granted. And if the investment period exceeds the retirement age, then we would also need to find out how much would you receive upon retirement, which is your pension, statutory pension, gesetzliche Rentenversicherung, or gesetzliche Rente, sorry. If you have a private pension, that would also be included. And the monthly installment as well as your monthly cost of living would be deducted. If you can cover your monthly costs upon retirement, then the banks have no issue with it. Yeah. So again, those are calculations banks always do on a regular, regardless if it's for your own use or as an investment.
Okay, yeah. Thank you. Mm-hmm.
Great. But again, the performance, what's always important for the beginning, when you cannot go in depth in regards to performance indications. You can only have a broad idea of the performance by just dividing the annual rent times divided by the purchase price. Then you at least have a certain indication. Because what did we not include? We did not include rental increase over the next, let's say, 10 years investment period. We did not include your costs of the investment, like, for example, the running costs that you have to manage the property, etc. We did not include inflation. Yeah. We did not include taxes and depreciation. Yeah. So those are all things we need to include in order to get the proper return of investment that will now finally determine, does this investment make sense over a longer period or not? Because what you see over here basically determines the point in time perspective. Yeah, and a point in time perspective just tells you from today's perspective, does this investment make sense? But it doesn't tell you over a period of time if the investment makes sense. I hope that was clear. Yeah. Okay, what did we do right now? We stuck on one page, and I did it deliberately because what we actually did is something what almost every, let's say, investment funds do. Let me just jump into the next slide. Or does anybody want to include anything over here? Okay, if you want to include, just let me know. I would just jump to the next slide. So now what we have here is basically a pension fund or a fund. They have collected some amounts of money, and they would simply go ahead and sit down and discuss basically all those points we have discussed as well. So where would they want to invest in which areas would they rather want to invest? How would they want to use the property, or how should the usage be? The investment volume, how much should be invested in different projects or sectors? How old should the property be within their portfolio? And they will also determine the performance, which is the cash flow, the return, etc. So actually what we did is basically what major investment funds would do in order to take the next step and say, what do we want to invest in? And I would always advise, before you go ahead and select a property, sit down with somebody or a friend, a colleague, an expert like myself and discuss these various points to simply just narrow down your search and to know exactly what do you want out of this investment. Okay, so this is something I just wanted to walk you through. Now, after you have made your, you've narrowed down your search, basically you've set up your framework, you'll start searching for the property. Now you have different ways that you can search for example, real estate platforms like Immobilien Scout, 24, everybody knows that. Then you have nullprovision.de, you have Neubau Kompass, etc. So all those platforms you can search for properties. It's one way of searching. You can also register in newsletters, which I would always advise. Newsletters of estate agencies or any real estate development agency. So register on the newsletter so they can always send you new information about properties which are out on the market. And it could be that one of these properties does fit your framework that you have set. Yeah, so this is always a good tool to go ahead with newsletters. And last but not least, which I personally have found very, very interesting because several of my clients do use it. For example, I have enclosed groups. WeChat is similar to WhatsApp. I have several, it's a Chinese platform, and I have several Chinese clients. They get together on a platform such as WeChat, and they simply just discuss with each other. Let's just say, like, for example, we create a platform and we'll go ahead and I say, oh, within my neighborhood, there's an apartment getting free. My tenants wants the landlord wants to sell, the owner wants to sell the apartment for this and that price. Now, the interesting thing is you are getting in before the market and you can maybe get the best price, because if you see estate agents coming in the play, they will try to get the higher price for the seller, of course. So in this stage, you can get information extremely early, or you can get the first information by setting up groups. I also have some clients who have WhatsApp groups, and they always communicate with each other what properties out there, what projects they would like to undertake, and so on and so forth, just to keep the communication a bit lively. And what I would like to set up with everybody who's willing to join is a Facebook page, which is called, I named it Afro Immo Netzwerk, in which we would simply just discuss about real estate. We would inform each another about what properties are out there, which investment opportunities are there, something that you'd like to live in yourself or even use as an investment portfolio. I find something very interesting. For example, a group of Chinese clients, they came together singly and they searched for a plot, and together they built a multiple family house, which was quite interesting. So basically they together, they acted as real estate developers. And this is also something which I would also advocate for anybody who would say, okay, we have a plot somewhere within a specific area. If we build a building there and rent it out, it could be very interesting. So everybody who wants to join, just get onto Facebook, click in Afro Immo Netzwerk, just search for it, send in a request, and I will just allow you to enter, and we can have an open conversation about real estate, etc. Good. Any questions here? Okay, then I would just want to go on if there are no questions. Good. Now that after we have searched, one of the things that we should do is the risk analysis and value level. Now, what does that mean? We need to, first of all, let's say, manage the risk that could face us or be aware of those risks. And we'd also need to discuss how we can increase the value of our investment in the long run. Now, for example, the first point would be to re-examine our premises. Oh, yes, Caroline, you would like to say something? Go ahead.
Yes, I wanted to ask if you can like do a sample search, like show us a small apartment and like help us to think through about it. Like what are some of the things we should be aware of? Just a practical thing, just go to Immowelt and take a 1-room small apartment and let's see.
Okay, let me
Did
just
that
stop.
make sense now or after?
Yeah, it does make sense. Let me just get into, okay, I'll start sharing and I'll just do something random, but that's a good point. Thank you very much.
Mhm.
Okay, share screen. Okay, now what would I do, for example? I would go ahead and, what do I do? Blah, 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 blah. Let me just go over here. Okay. www.immo-scout24, right? Now I said that Düsseldorf could be interesting. Now we have here Düsseldorf, or here, yeah, this is an interesting page. I would like to share with everybody. So anybody who wants to check the comments, I'm sharing something right now. Wohnungsbörse, there you can get different prices of rental prices for the different regions. I find in all over Germany. I find it actually quite interesting. Okay. Now we're here in Düsseldorf. Oh, no, we're not yet in Düsseldorf. Where is it, Düsseldorf? That, okay. Now what I would do, for example, if I'm interested in Düsseldorf, I would go ahead and say, okay, which area in Düsseldorf could be interesting? I'll take a look at the Mietspiegel here in Düsseldorf. And then here, first of all, what you can see is that they give you an indication, okay, the rental prices per square meter in Düsseldorf, how they have been performing. And then you get for small apartments in NRW and now in Germany. And you can see that Düsseldorf somehow outperformed the rest of NRW as well as Germany. So Düsseldorf is a good investment, first of all. Yeah, or a good spot to invest in.
Is it because of the Japanese community?
Oh yeah, I want to. They're good. I mean, they're doing a good job there. I would argue. I don't know.
Okay.
In this case, you can see just small apartments, 30 square meters. But again, 30 square meters apartments, yes, they're good investments if you compare them with, let's say, here 60 square meters. Here you see 11 euros, 63. And with the smaller apartments, you can get 14.83. And again, this is just an indication. But you'll find very few banks willing to finance the small apartments, right? And those who are willing to finance the small apartments, yes, they could go ahead, but then the question is, do you get the best conditions? So this is something that one should always examine. Yeah. Good. Now, besides,
why are they willing? Why are they not willing to finance to give mortgages for small apartments?
Yeah, the smaller apartments, I can't really explain why they're not willing to finance small apartments. It's just a decision made by the bank saying that apartments which are smaller than 25 square meters, they do not want to finance. Some banks would say apartments which are more than 30 square meters or 50 square meters, just do not want to have such properties in their portfolio. And this is a decision each and every bank can make for their own. Yeah. Good. Now, what do we see here? In different areas in Düsseldorf, we have here Düsseldorf Altstadt, 12.93 per square meter. Then we have here in Karlstadt, 22.25 per square meter. We have in Hafen, very interesting as well, 21.82 per square meter, etc. So here you can at least narrow down where would I want to invest in regards to the rental price per square meter. Of course, you have to take a look into the purchase price per square meter now. So there should always be a relation between the rental price per square meter as well as the purchase price per square meter, right? But at least you can use such Mietspiegel information here as a guideline, just to give you a direction. Where is it best to invest in regards to earnings? Right now, I'm not talking about how nice the area is, if you like it or not, because this is something personal. I'm just looking into the numbers now. The numbers tell me, for example, buying in Karlstadt, that would give me the best rental yield per square meter. Okay, potentially. Now we have to take a look into the price. Anybody who's around Düsseldorf, do you know about the prices in Karlstadt? Can you tell us something?
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
For example, if you live there, you will pay not less than 1,700 for, I don't know how many square meters. It's expensive. So not so many. I mean, if you live there, people say, okay, creme de la creme of Dusseldorf. So
Okay, okay.
yeah.
So 1,700 is like a rent, right?
Like rent, yeah.
Okay. Do you know about the purchase price? How high those would be in that area?
Not really. I've not checked the purchase price there, but I know that it's not less than 600,000 for small apartments.
Oh, for small
That
apartments.
are that are just coming up right now, but I'm not sure exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. No. Okay. Interesting. Yeah. Yeah.
Dusseldorf are in here.
Yeah.
So the Karlstadt area, I'll type around 1 million for 70 quadrat meter.
Yeah.
Wow, that's sportlich.
Yeah.
Yeah. 1 million. Okay. Yeah. But I mean, again, these are just indications one can use in order to narrow down your searches. You could also go ahead and say, okay, I would like to invest into, let's just say Niederkassel, for example, which I would say the rent per square meter is also quite lucrative or interesting. Now you just need to find out how high the purchase price is. And again, you're always trying to look for the lowest price that you can get, yeah, for a good property, of course. Yeah.
I just want to add on the areas the outcasts from the Dusseldorf are also very marketable because somewhere like Grevenbroich, Kapellen, Koschenbroich, there are areas where with 20 minutes drive, you are in Dusseldorf, you're in Köln, you are in Aachen, it's around 30, 40 minutes. Those are people working class are all going to these areas because it's affordable. And the price, like you're saying, the property price are etwas, they are a little bit cheaper than Dusseldorf exactly, but you can still rent to these people because they are moving in the outcasts. So I think it's also very good point for the other people to know.
Yeah, I'm trying to check into Koschenbroich, but those are outputs. One have to mutual noise. Okay. I mean, again, but those information you can always find here. And actually, you know what we're doing right now is very effective because if you have a group of people discussing all those different points, sharing ideas, the probability of making mistakes would be much lower, right? And this is something where I would invite each and everyone, join, let's discuss, see what best information one can get in order to make it, let's say, the best investment decision, right? Okay, good. Then let me just jump into what do I do? What am I doing here? Yeah, back into Immobilien Scout. Let's just say again, we're having an area like Karlstadt. Okay, now I'm just narrowing down on Karlstadt, right? In Karlstadt, we would like to buy an apartment. This is of Karlstadt. Oops, there are no apartments available in Karlstadt. Now we can go ahead and say, okay, let's just take Düsseldorf half, okay? And see what's there. But there's nothing available here in Düsseldorf. I do not know the Bezirk. But again, what I just wanted to show is how you could start your search. First of all, you need to narrow down in regards to the rent per square meter, and then you need to know the price per square meter, and then you start actually looking into what's out there. Now, you might not always find something immediately, but at least you know what you're looking for. I think it's better to know what you're looking for than just jumping into the search. Yeah. Yeah, so this was just a short but not effective presentation, I would say. But this is how I would go ahead and search for properties. Yeah. Good. I want to jump back into the presentation. Good. Now, first of all, what's important, after you have narrowed down or made your search, you have found a property that you'd like to invest in. First step would be to examine your premises. Yeah. So basically, you have to say that everything that I have selected for myself, for my investment, does this property represent my my selection, yes or no? And in best case, the property should do so. Or else, I mean, even if the property doesn't, maybe you have found something which is much more attractive than the actual goal you've set for yourself, can also happen, right? But it's just good to be prepared. Now, the next thing you need to do is just to find out, okay, can you increase the value through any project developments? For example, you're buying an apartment which needs a certain amount of refurbishment. You have to put some work in it. Does it make sense to put work in it? And will this work also increase the rental value of the property, yes or no? So this is also something you could also think of and discuss with people, specialists, etc. Another point is to exploit the rental potential. Now, what's also always very tricky is that you buy an apartment and you see an elderly lady is living in that apartment and she has a rental agreement from, let's say, 1980. Well, with such rental agreements, maybe she's still paying the rent in Deutschmark, now converted in euros, yeah? And you can't change the rental agreements. Basically, only if she passes away, then you can basically increase the rent. But then you're stuck into a property where you cannot increase the rent at all, yeah? And this is something you always have to take a look into. Always look into the rental agreement. How is the rental agreement set up? Do you have options to enhance the rent based on the rental agreement, yes or no? Yeah. Another point is reduction of maintenance costs and reduction of management costs. Now, I would not want to go into any property investment where you have, you can see in the protocol that all the owners, every year they're deciding to do some new refurbishment, right? Where you have to put in money, your house gauge is increasing over time. Right? So this doesn't make sense, which means I'm just paying more and more and more, and the costs are always getting higher. So this is something you can always see in the protocol. You just ask for the protocol, the house Eigentümerversammlungs protocol, and there the last 5 years, I would even say last 10 years, and just read through it and try to understand, has there been any major refurbishments that is planned? Or was there any major refurbishment, or will there be any major refurbishment in the future that's been discussed maybe some years ago and now implemented sometime in the next 2 or 3 years? Because those all are very cost effective and will reduce your investment. And last but not least is a part which I find very interesting, because this is a major part of my job, is to reduce the cost, the capital costs, leverage effects, and optimization of the investment. I would like to show you just an Excel sheet that I prepared some time ago. Just a moment. Hope you guys can all follow.
Yes, we're still here.
Wonderful. Okay, now this is something I can share with you. It basically helps you a lot if you are trying to really understand a property and the how good this investment is. Now, as I told you initially, when we're discussing the return of investment, you simply just make a calculation, your annual rent divided by the purchase price, and then you get a certain indication. Now, in this case, this is an apartment in Berlin, which would cost you 535,000 euros. It also has a garage, and you have all those actual additional costs. So the total investment is 615,000, right? And the person is getting a rent of 23,000 per annum, right? Now, again, the same equation, the 23,000 divided by the 535 plus the 35 over here. Okay, and that gives you a gross initial yield of 4.1%, which is okay. Well, at least it's the first indication, so close to the 5%, right? But it doesn't tell me much, because what I'm not considering inflation. I'm not considering the interest that I'm paying towards the bank if I'm taking a loan. I'm also not considering how much loan I'm actually taking from the bank. And I'm also not considering the costs of managing the property. And again, inflation affects the cost of managing the property. I'm not considering taxations. I'm not considering depreciations. So those are all things that I have to consider as well. Sorry. In order to determine does it make sense or not. So now if I consider all those points on the perspective of a 10 years duration, this is all considered in here. Then my return of investment over here, this is the initial rate of return, would be now 6.96%. So which means I'm going from 4.1% to 6.96. Now I'm above the 5%, and it shows me that this investment is actually a very good investment. But this is something that maybe as a different session we can walk through together, because it takes time to understand each and every point within this Excel table. But this is something I can share, and if you want to discuss it with me privately or in a group, then we can have this conversation again. Okay?
Yes. Can you scroll up briefly, Osman?
Yes, again?
Can you scroll up the list, the Excel?
Yeah.
Okay. I think this one needs a session, like we do an extra session and go through
Yeah,
this.
it's too short to explain in detail. I mean, this short time, because
But
this
very
one is
interesting.
basically financial planning now, in which you now go ahead and determine all your variables that could affect your investments, like rent, of course, rental increase. And again, here we're just working with what we believe could affect our investments. Now, it doesn't mean that it is true, but at least it brings us very close to what could happen with our investment, right? And I find it very interesting, and it's good to consider if you want to invest into a property or not. And this is something where I specialize in, and we can discuss it in details if you wish. And that's basically it's from my end. I hope I could help some of you and give you some insights. I hope it was not too quick. I enjoyed you participating. It was fun. At least I did not talk the whole time. And if you have questions, any detailed questions, again, you can reach out to me at any time, and we can discuss. We can set up an appointment and discuss your potential investment that you have. And any question that's relating to real estate, etc. I'm happy to answer those questions. Thank you very much again.
Thank you so much, Osman. Every time we do a session, I'm just left shocked. I'm just like, wow, I wish I knew this information like 10 years ago. Impressive. Yeah, thank you so much. I'll stop the recording so that at least people can ask questions freely.
Okay.
Yes, you can see